Well, I just got this Holland 44 Operation Market Garden. It says September 1944. GMT Mark Simonitch. And, the cover is interesting because we have buttoned up Shermans. I assume it's the Guards Armored Division. No markings. And there's no Fireflies with the 17-pounder, which is interesting because isn't that the distinctive Sherman for the British? And boy, would you want to lead off with those babies. They certainly have them around. I don't know what that AA gun is in back. It almost looks like the old North Africa Portee kind of deal. It's a really nice cover, though, isn't it? Holland and the 44 in red, which I think is their maybe becoming their signature thing. If you look at the back with the description, I guess we have the Red Devils there. Looking, I don't know if tentative is exactly the word, but do they know what's coming? And American Airborne, we've seen that picture used before. I think it's interesting. What's our time scale? It is... This can't be right. 3 days per turn. No. 3 days per turn. 3 a.m., p.m., night. It must mean 3 turns per day. 2 kilometers per hex. The unit scale is battalion, which is interesting because I just looked at Normandy 44, and if we think of Ardennes 44, I don't know what they're going to do if they get to 45 or 43. Those are regimental gangs with the armor in battalions. Now here, they're choosing not to take, apparently, the armor down or batteries down to company level, the next level down. Unlike the Victory Games Hell's Highway, which I thought was brilliantly executed at the battalion level for infantry, for the most part, or the British anyway, with their more intact and fully fleshed out units. But the armor rendered in company level, and that was particularly effective in terms of trying to get the difficulty of moving the armor down to one highway, because with the movement rules and the companies, you needed a lot of road space. You needed 3 times as much road space. So I don't know how they're going to do it here. So we've got, the obligatory SS in black, and it says complexity medium at 6, solitaire suitability 7. That's very high. 30-turn campaign game, 11-turn scenario. Yes. Using the system, the simple move fight supply system developed in Normandy 44 and Ardennes 44. So let's take a look here. Oh, errata. Don't want to lose that. Fine should be added. For the 5 bridges. Start the game blown. I don't know, in a game where it's, as they say in the movie and Cornelius Ryan's book, and maybe in real life, it's all a question of bridges. I guess it's important to know which you are blown and which you've got to build. And they're on the Bocholt Herentals Canal. Dear customer, it's been checked by Deb. Beautiful. Wow, check this out. Here we go. Goodness, well, I doubt that's the Nijmegen Bridge in the picture there. And there we go. There's our Firefly. Why didn't they just use these? And, of course, they're exposed. And look at the camouflage. In fact, these turrets look quite large, although they only extended them in back. But that's got to be a Firefly there. They look lower slung in the photo than they did in the drawing. And I imagine it's the Nijmegen Bridge. So what have we got? Units, stacking, steps, da-da-da-da. Looks like the Allied battalions are going to be 3-step. Got quite a variety of units. And stacking. I think that's very important. Now, let's see. I can't tell quickly here. Because Mark made a big deal out of that in his Ardennes game. Where's the darn limit? I mean, I think as in Ardennes, it's interesting because when his write-up on Ardennes 44, he wanted a low stacking game. But as this is similar to Ardennes in this that it's really roads and you have motorized units. The Germans are trying to move motorized units, if not through a limited. Actually, there were a lot of roads in the Ardennes, but the problem is the best roads ran perpendicular to their axis of attack. They didn't run, oddly enough, towards the Meuse. I mean, they did once Godfrey Piper had gotten over, I think, the Amblev River. Well, here, the main highway does run directly from the British starting point to Eindhoven, to Nijmegen, to Arnhem. The problem is there's just one road. And one of the things you don't find much in the histories is just how much road space a mechanized unit used. I think Piper might have been 17 miles stretched out at one time, and he only had a third of 1st Panzer. We got the zone of control bonds, which in a battalion level game, do you need it? I don't know. Wow, it's a really beautiful looking. We got morale shifts, elite. Looks like you're going to get a bonus even if you're not on the special table. Armor shifts, anti-tank modifiers, and so consequently we have all the color coding. There's numerous armor examples. He's got KL. He's got like 13 examples. Wow. You know, it's funny because the German armor mainly was defending in Nijmegen and crushing the Red Devils. Colonel Frost or Major Frost battalion at the bridge. And I guess 107th Panzer Brigade going after the 101st. But, it wasn't really armor in the classic sense of like sweeping maneuvers and things like that. They're more assault guns. Advance after combat. Artillery. I will say, I feel like potentially the Allied artillery is maybe underrepresented. In Ardennes 44, I mean, the Germans and Axis have the same, or the Allies and the Axis have the same amount practically, but the Germans just can't resupply theirs as fast. Breakdown units. So maybe you can break down into battalion units or company units for the tanks. Maybe it makes no sense. Traffic markers. I guess we're going to get congestion like you used in the Ardennes. Optional rules, hints. Oh my God, the extended example play, which is just fun to look at. What you can do with this particular array of units. Combat tables. I mean, just look at the examples he's got here. Goes on and on. Designer notes. It used to be designer notes were long, and the Avalon Hill Company would say, well, we're going to short designer units because you can get the General Magazine. I suppose the same can be true here. You can get their C3I. Order of battle. He says this is the hardest part to put together. Besides the fact there's simply very little information on the Germans. Now, other people have done these games, and I think it's interesting, and at some point I'm going to do it in one of my How Does It Stack Up videos. I apologize if the overstacking rules are a little awkward, but it was important for the 1st Airborne units to survive in an ever-shrinking perimeter. Yeah. Victory games is Hell's Highway. I think they used a Brit to help them with that order of battle. I forget his name, Jeffrey Barnard. So I don't know how big the issue was. Yeah, with the Germans, because they pulled a bunch of units together, I could see where that might be a problem as opposed to the Allies. I don't know how he's going to do supply. I mean, the Victory game, I think, is tough to beat. Just like Mark Herman tried with the Civil War game recently, and now here we are with this. So, let's look at our setup card. Oh my goodness, is that pretty. Yeah. Guards armored. 1, 2, 3, 4 armored battalions. I think one's attached. I mean, I guess that's right. And then 4. It's interesting. I assume it's attack defense here. Let's get that closer. Can you see the values? I think the unit values are really important. And let's face it, here it's all about guards armored. if they can't get the job done, somebody's in trouble. The not too much difference between the Americans and the Brits, and I wonder if he's going to have an optional rule. I recently saw a brilliant documentary by TIK on YouTube, and he went through Market Garden, and boy, it was embarrassing to Gavin in the 82nd. But he also Browning used transports that could have been used to bring in more Red Devils, maybe Poles, I don't know, instead of himself, who really, when he had a big decision to make, should have given Gavin the order to go for Nijmegen Bridge on the first day, which he didn't, which ultimately may have proved fatal to the Red Devils. So there's a setup, and I guess it's got the Germans on there. Victory games had all those minor flak units, which the Allies had to take out. And here I don't see any of that. Oh boy, check it out. Look at this CRT. 3-1. First result is engaged. Now here the engaged results get turned against the Allies in the Ardennes games. They usually hurt the British. So engaged, exchange. I don't know if you can see that. Yeah, there it is. Interesting. Not too attrition heavy, but I guess if you're only fighting 8 hours. Of course, if you're attacking in the open against flak weapons, or with flak weapons inflating you, as I guess the Red Devils did on the second day, maybe. They took terrible casualties. But it took the Germans, I don't know, what was it, 3, 4, 5 days to reduce Frost Battalion, so that's 9 to 15 turns. And that's just a battalion, which is 3 steps? So that's like a step a day. So I guess you got to be careful here that you don't let them get wiped out too quickly, right? And the counters themselves, wow, they're beautiful counters. And you see them, my autofocus here. Let's get some light. Look good in the preview. Well, I just 2 counter sheets. The second one's a lot of markers. Look at bridges. Blown bridges. And the SS, of course, the reduced units, the traffic markers. The Brits, more Brits. 101st, 82nd. It's interesting because I think in Ardennes 44, the defensive factors of the American airborne divisions was 6 on a regimental basis. Of course, here some of their units are disaggregated. And they're pretty similar to the Red Devils. But let's look at Guards Armored. How about Kampfgruppe Knopf, or whatever, Kraft, the one unfortunate student unit that was in the woods just west of Arnhem that really changed everything. A few half-tracks and armored cars or whatever they had proved to be enough, coupled with some command screw-ups. It'll be interesting to see how air power is handled as well. Let's see, do we even have airplanes? 2. I don't know what that bodes for. Poles. Now, I looked online before I got this or made the decision to order it, and it looks like in their map, which is in 2 parts, yes. You see here, you've got 12th Corps, 30 Corps, and 8th Corps. And I'm going with the victory game because I love that game, Hell's Highway. 30 Corps, that's all you've got. But here are the flanking corps. And the flanking corps, the lagging flanking corps, they really hurt 30 Corps because they kept them on that narrow road the whole time. So they're kind of set up like the 6th SS Panzer Army, the 5th SS Panzer Army was. And that looks like these unit boundaries continue for quite a way, so presumably they couldn't cross over. So I guess we're going to get, let's see if we have some units that I don't recognize. The 43rd West Division, the 50th Division, I don't know, maybe one that are each in the other corps. 29th Armored Brigade. It's like maybe 11th Armored Division, or part of it. No, it looks like Cripes. We got a 2nd Armored Division, or part of it, not all of it. I mean, you really don't know. In some ways, this Arnhem attack was like Monty's attacks in Normandy around Caen, when he had again, he had limited supply. So he made these corps-size attacks to try to cut off Caen, and basically, you've got a corps attack too. I guess a 2-corps attack, if you consider the Airborne Corps as a 2nd corps. But they're basically waiting to be rescued, I suppose, by 30 Corps. It's really a narrow frontage, apart from the single highway. And that allows the British to constantly pressure the highway and force 30 Corps to come back and help. Well, here's the 107th Panzer Brigade. That would give the Americans some grief. Panzer Grenadiers, some Panther tanks, always awkward. I mean, let's face it, what have you got? In the 101st to deal with Panthers. Can't be much. Did they even give them an anti-tank gun? I know they had some towed guns. And I thought I saw them in the preliminary printing, but no. In the Red Devils, do they have any anti-tank weapons? Oh, for Pete's sake. They have a single artillery unit each. And no anti-tank weapons. I mean, they'd be 57 millimeters, but still. I don't know about that. And the victory games, they didn't have them as separate counters. Some units had an inherent anti-tank capability. I think the glider units might have. But they gave it to the headquarters. They gave the headquarters an inherent capability. Let's see. I don't know. Boy. Well, you're not going to be doing much with the Guards Armored. And with the Corps on either side and the Corps boundaries, it's basically straight up the road. Not a lot of room for imagination, I would expect. Victory games, you had to decide if you were going to try to push out to the sides and disperse and try to outflank. I mean, you really slowed down when you moved off the road. You had unlimited movement. There are a lot of German units. A lot. And their values are, around 4. Same as the airborne. I mean, they have 4 attack, 5 defense, 5 defense. Well, the infantry and the Guards Armored, it's got 5 attack, 5 attack, 5 and 6. And how many artillery units do they have? Cripes, Guards Armored has 1. 5th Division 1. There's 30 Corps has 1. I don't know, man. Victory games, there was... God, Guards Armored might have had 3 alone. And the 30 Corps had a couple of big ones. So I don't know how that's working. I mean, let's face it. The Brits, it's all about artillery. That's one of their best cards to play. You take that away from them, reducing one of their most important arms to a single counter. I mean, you're basically trying to turn them into the German army, and then you say why they don't perform as well. I have that inflexibility in the artillery unit. Like in the France 40 games, they'll take the Panzer divisions and break them down into multiple unit pieces, and I think there's a system like this that does that that's been out a little while, and I thought I saw that. And yet when it comes to the Allies and the Americans, artillery's their big deal. And you don't break it down and give them the flexibility. I mean, you reduce it to a single counter, basically for the whole division and the Corps. Artillery. Range, support. May provide support to only one combat per phase. Well, if you only have one unit, you're only supplying it to one offensive. Each artillery unit providing off gives the attacker a favorable shift to one column. The ad player only may earn 2 by using both, I guess, the core artillery and the divisional artillery. I don't know. I think that's bullshit. You can use 1 in a defensive support. Well, what are you going to do? Guards Armored has 1. 30 Corps has 1 artillery unit. So, if you use them both, Guards Armored and 30 Corps, that's it. 1 attack gets the shift. And then being able to flip it over every time. During the German artillery supply phase of the AM and PM turns, the German player may flip over any 2. During night turns, all German artillery that can trace may flip. Allied now. Each friendly artillery phase, the artillery allied player may flip over to side any 2 non-airborne units. Oh, for God's sakes. Maybe the end result, it'll all work out. But how you get there... I mean, in some ways, I suppose the British were in a spot similar to the Germans in that, could they move all that artillery that they had? All right, let's take a look at the... Here's Nijmegen and 5 hexes. And, why am I looking at... Oh, and there's Arnhem is 3. And it's a little different here. Boy, they're close. So close and yet so far. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. Grosbeak Heights. I don't know, it seems a little constricted. Grave. Well, it's certainly great looking, and there's at least 2 different kinds of roads. A lot of little towns. In Hell's Highway, there were ferries. I guess there they are. Different sized bridges, many of which the ferries couldn't be repaired, but a lot of the smaller bridges could be. Maybe not an unlimited number. Oh, yeah, here it is. It's interesting that the attack began in the afternoon of the 17th p.m. I don't know. That's a problem. The where's our... Let's take a look at combat modifiers. Armor shift. Unsupported defender tank units. I assume that means they have no infantry. Morale. Air support. Attackers halved. Not part of the lead formation. I feel like I'm going to the Sicily game here. Armored units and defenders' armor rating is higher. Attacking across a canal or river. Out of supply. Engaged. Defending units have disrupted. Artillery, 1 shift. So the British can shift, what? I guess 2 attacks. I mean, let's just count it up here, folks. The Germans have got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 artillery units. Now that in the documentary I saw the TIK, he had Said the German artillery was killing the 82nd. And here we've got the 43rd Division, 11th Armored, 30 Corps, 50th, 8th Corps. Oh, those are bridging units. Where the hell is... We got 30 Corps, 1, 2, Guards is 3, 11th Armored 4, 43rd Division 5, plus the 3 Airborne. Boy, I don't know, the British and Americans spent all that energy on communications and logistics for artillery, and what do they have to show for it? Not much. You know, they basically look like the German army. Maybe that's the way convergent evolution, you know, the same life forms in the same environment converge, even if they're on identical environments but in different locations. And here they're in the same. So, we've got some tigers or yag panthers or yag tigers. I don't even know if the Germans are going to need that. So, I don't know. It looks tough. Oh, the air power. Yeah, I think I see 2 air units here. Boy. I mean, come on. I think of the British, it's airplanes and artillery. I mean, that's what it's about, right? Yeah. And, just not a lot of flexibility here. Doesn't look like it. And no AT capability for the airborne divisions. Come to think of it, I don't see, even at a battalion level here, separate AT units for the British armored divisions, or infantry divisions for that matter. Didn't I just get done looking at Dan Holte's Battle for Normandy battalion level game? And I know in The Longest Day and from Mortars of Battles there certainly was capability. Maybe it's built in. Is it built into the armored infantry? I don't see it. And I don't have time here. Been going long enough. Alright. Great looking game. And it's a really, you know, the counters are big, the map's beautiful. I don't know, I feel like the Allies always get the short shrift, even though we won. Unless maybe you're in the Pacific, you know, with the United States Navy. Who can argue with that? I can't.